Come on, Livingston. We gotta go on and on and on. Together we can make it. We gotta go on and on and on. Come on, Livingston.
Knocks it through. Mullen bursting into the box. Josh Mullen.
Together we can make it.
Mullen's ball across, it's turned in! It's Pittman who's got it! Livingston leads!
Road is long.
Can they get the ball back in? O'Brien.
Lead! And Livingston have the lead!
Man, can score.
If we march together.
The full-time whistle blows and David Hayes celebrates! And the Livingston fans join in exultation.
Come on, Livingston.
Livingston have the lead against Rangers, and they are certainly rising to a few occasions on their return to the top flight in Scotland.
Come on, Livingston. We gotta go.
Hello and welcome back to Talk Livi, the podcast dedicated to everything Livingston Football Club and Scottish football. My name's Angus and today I'm just joined by Euan. Euan, how are you doing, mate?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. It was obviously a disappointing result on Sunday, but we did get a big win during the week. I'm sure we'll dive into all the ins and outs of both games, and we'll also be doing a little bit of Does Your Fox In. Will be back this week as well, which is always a good laugh. So yeah, it should be a good episode. But what about yourself, mate? How you doing?
Very much the same. Still looking to win for yesterday, but still optimistic, still hopeful for the rest of the season. And we'll get right into that. But as always, you can find this episode as well as all of our others on your preferred podcast streaming site. Just search for Talk Livi, so follow us or subscribe to ensure that you don't miss another episode.
We'll start the episode off by taking a look back at our midweek home win against Dundee United, as the Lions came from behind to secure a big 3 points.
It's the return of What Does Your Fox In, as we discuss the things that annoy us about the beautiful game.
Finally, we'll discuss all the talking points from our home defeat to Celtic, as the league leaders ended their Spaghettihad hoodoo.
Dundee United visited West Lothian on Wednesday night in what was a big game for both sides in the pursuit of a top 6 finish. Despite going behind early on, Livi would come from behind and a late own goal would seal all 3 points. Euan, overall it was a deserved result, wasn't it?
Yeah, definitely was a deserved result. I think the performance was very good. Maybe the first 15 minutes, I think Dundee United were probably the better side. I think it reminded me a little bit of the St Johnstone home game. I think we looked a bit rushed in possession. I think they were pressing us quite well and putting us under pressure and forcing us to go long and not play through the thirds. And obviously they scored very early doors, albeit Pittman's had a chance just before it, probably about 30 seconds before it, which is deflected wide. But, the goal comes, and for me, it's just a case that we don't clear our lines. I think we've got 2 or 3 opportunities in the build up to the goal to get the ball up the park and clear our lines, and we don't manage to do that. Smith's managed to nip in front of Penrice and stab it into the roof of the net. But I think the response was very good, and we managed to get that equaliser from Pitts. It's a good ball forward by Fitzy, well flicked on by Newbley. I think Anderson does brilliant in the build-up in terms of turning Mulgrew, keeping the ball alive, fizzes the ball into Pitts. It's a superb finish by Pitts, because it's not an easy ball to take that he gets from Anderson. As I say, he's fizzed it into him, and his first touch kind of makes the goal, and it's a superb finish, smashes it past Segrist, and I think we deserved that. And to be honest, how we didn't go in at the break ahead with the chances we had. Oberleis had a free header over the bar, albeit I do think Dundee United had an opportunity with Niskanen, which for the life of me, I don't know what he's trying to do with the ball. Heads it straight in front of him. He's probably beaten Max with it. But, Alan Forrest has then had one which has just about shaved the post, and Pitts has had a chance as well, which is blazed over the bar. But I think second half, I think Segrist was really keeping United in the game at points. Close range save that he made from Pitts. Albeit, again, United did have the odd chance here or there. I think Nicky Clark had one which he should do better with. He hits the side netting with it. Alan Forrest looked like he's been linked with Dundee United this week, and he again looked like he was on a mission, like he was against St Johnstone earlier in the season. It seems to be the way he plays when he gets linked with a club, he decides to try and punish them in the most severe way possible, which is just proving how good Alan Forrest can be. And he seemed on a one-man mission to try and beat Siegrist, and unfortunately, Dundee United keepers managed to get the better of him with a couple of efforts. But we got what I think we deserved in the game, which was the winner. It's a great ball down the side from Jason Holt, and Nicky Devlin rolls the ball across. And to be honest, Edwards is really in a no-win position there, I think, because he's got Soto and Montano coming in behind him for a tap-in if he leaves it. And if he doesn't try and play the ball, it's a brilliant ball by Devlin, and that it puts the defender in a position where he can't really win. He's either going to maybe turn it into his own net, or he's going to leave someone to tap it in at the back post. But I think we got what we deserved, and we managed to see the game out. And it was a massive 3 points. We spoke about it. Obviously, I previewed the game with Jeff, and he was a bit doom and gloom about Dundee United. And I think, again, you saw maybe what Jeff was talking about with United. There was occasions where they would have decent possession, but failed to do a great deal with it at times. And as I say, I think we looked the real deal on Wednesday again, and it was a big 3 points in terms of going for top six, which it saw us sitting fourth in the league, which at this stage of the season, I think if you look back at the start of the campaign, Angus, I think both ourselves were starting to get a bit worried and had almost resigned ourselves to the fact we were going for a scrap at the bottom end of the table. I don't think either of us would have imagined that we'd be sitting fourth in the league, which I think is great testament to the players and Davey and the backroom staff.
Yeah, absolutely. Going into that game, it was basically one of the kind of last attempts before the the top before the split, kind of cement our place in that kind of top six area. I think if Dundee United came away with a victory there, they would have been fancying themselves. But now it's all up in the air now. But yeah, you're spot on with that. I do feel as if Dundee United were knocking the ball about a lot nicer, in that kind of first 15 minutes. And I think that was kind of the surprising thing is that, they kind of stopped doing that. They were doing kind of all the right things. They were winning second balls and that. And then, they just seemed to camp back, a further 10 yards, which, I think for fans of them will be, a little disappointed. I'm pretty sure Tam Courts was mentioning it in his the post-match interview that, they weren't impressed with how, they kind of just went to protect that one goal lead. Maybe the injury to Tony Watt, changed the kind of mentality within the players. But, they brought in Nicky Clark, who, is also a very decent player. But, yeah, following on from that, very, very deserved victory. The performance from the guys, I think Jason Holt was absolutely incredible in that match and plays his part in the winning goal. But I thought he was absolutely everywhere. The game, what I really liked about the game was that, it had that kind of like old school feeling to it. There was a lot of, kind of, I don't know if scrappy is the kind of right way to say it about it, but it did feel like a real battle at times. There was a lot of times where, players were going in for like consecutive 50-50s, and the referee was, allowing it to be, that extra kind of physicality to be in it. The challenges were all kind of equal. He wasn't, just blowing one up because, he felt pressured to, give in to either side. And it kind of added a wee bit of excitement to the game. And, I feel like Holt in particular, most times out of not, came out on the better hand of that. But as you say, yeah, in that second half, Siegrist, there's reasons why he's been linked with, like the Rangers and all of that. And same with Alan Forrest now, and the reason why he's been linked to a whole host of teams. The battle that they two had, unfortunately, Forrest never got his goal, but, we still got the win in the end. Just very, very pleasing the game was as a whole. I think when an early goal goes in that at the start, you start to feel for the worst. But the reaction was exactly what you're looking for. And I do think it's probably one of the performances of the season in that aspect, where we've had that early adversity, but we haven't let it get behind us at all. We haven't let it put us down in the slightest. And, we've went on to, keep going on and on. How many times have we said it this season as well that we've not killed a game off and then we've ended up dropping points because of it. That game against Dundee United could have very easily much been the exact same, but, we kept going on. I know we get a wee bit of luck from, it being an own goal, but as you say, Soto's there to, to probably put it in anyway. So, yeah, the game's just very, very pleasing. And I think, you could see that from the players following the match as well. Jumping up to fourth place. That was like the first kind of real proper sign this season that we'd made like that kind of a leap. It was the first time that like the kind of the media and like kind of the Twitter sphere taking notice of us this season. In all honesty, everybody was like, "Hold on, like how the hell are Livi fourth all of a sudden?" And that just, as you said, it's a testament to all the hard work that's been put in by a team to kind of turn this around and to even just install this kind of confidence within us. I mean, the kind of doom and gloom, of the kind of November kind of times, and that seemed like a long time ago now. And we've actually got a good buzz around the club, thinking that we actually belong in the top six. We're not here just again to stumble across it. The performances are all there, and if anything, we've done ourselves a disservice by the rest of the season by not performing to the same level. But we're there now. We've got a couple of games left before the split happens, and let's hope we stay there.
Yeah, you mentioned Jason Holt for praise. I mean, I think both ourselves would agree that Holt is probably well in contention for player of the season for us. But I thought there was a number of really good performances across the board. I thought both fullbacks were excellent. I think the last few weeks we've really started to see the Nicky Devlin of old from maybe last season, really bombing forward and driving us forward on the right-hand side. Penrice, I'll be honest, when we re-signed James, I was a bit sceptical if he would be a player that would play every week, stepping up from League One at Partick Thistle. But he's absolutely nailed down that left back spot now, Penners, and he's looking like and this is something I thought with him when he was initially at the club. For an 18-year-old, when he was at the club at first time round, he played like he was a 28-year-old. He looked a lot more experienced than his age suggested. And I think you can see that with Penners when you watch him play. He comes across as being a lot more experienced than he actually is. And I think that's only a good thing going forward with a player like him. As you say, Jason Holt was excellent. I think seeing Pitts back to his best, bursting into the box, late runs into the box. I've missed that Scott Pittman. I really have this season. And obviously it's been a difficult season for him with injuries and things like that, which he's not really had since arriving at Livi. But it's great to see that player back. And I think Bruce Anderson as well, Nubly up top, was excellent. But I think Bruce, you're really starting to see a more complete number 9. And Bruce, I think that's something, for me, I always thought Bruce would score goals if you were giving him chances, but it was that outside the box work that's really coming on. And you can see that for the assist for Pitts as well. It's great link-up play with him and Nubly, and he does well, shows great composure to pick out Pitts on the edge of the box. But yeah, there was just so many great performances, and I think I saw a few comments about it on Twitter and Facebook and things like that. Obviously, Davey made a comment earlier in the season after the game at Easter Road where he said Livingston FC will not get relegated this season. Mm-hmm. And he made quite bold claims at the start of the season, talking about this is the most exciting group of players he's had in his time at the football club. Don't get me wrong, well aware that the start of the season we had a big turnover in players and it was always going to take a little bit of time. But at the same time, you're a football fan, you get concerned about your team. And there was a point we're sitting bottom of the league and you're thinking, is this the most exciting group of players? But I think we really, second half of the season, certainly, I think we are starting to see an exciting team on the back. And that's why we felt so confident going into the Celtic game, because we are playing so well and I think playing a good style of football as well at times. And it's really refreshing to see. But, the manager, the backroom staff and the players deserve massive, massive credit. And we've got three massive games between now and the split. We need to go away to Tynecastle, which is going to be difficult. Away to St Johnstone, it's going to be difficult because they're fighting for their lives. And then you've got Motherwell, who are essentially in the mix to be in the top 6 as well. So they're not easy games, but they're all games that if we looked at those at the start of the season, we wouldn't have fancied them at all. Whereas now I think we've been to Tynecastle recently, been more than a match for Hearts. And you're fancying us to maybe go and get a result now. And I think there is that kind of belief starting to build around the football club again, which is great to see.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just a complete reverse from, where we were earlier on. And, you've got to give credit to Dave as well, just because of, we had a lot of injury issues, a lot of COVID issues and all of that. And, kind of staying patient in that way kind of sticking to the plan and stuff like that. And I think that's kind of the main issue as to why, everybody hasn't, why earlier on in the season those ceilings were there. I think what we've played, for the Dundee United game, it was like the same starting lineup for the last 3 or 4 games. That continuity, I think, has really done the team a world of good because, we're not going into matches now and there's, 3-4 changes every game, formation change, or this player's now playing in, a completely different position. Just having that kind of stability, I think it's doing us a world of good. Don't think you get many people arguing that, the team that has featured in the last kind of 4 or 5 weeks, isn't our best 11 in all honesty. I think it would be very hard to, make a claim for based off of the form as well because everybody's been playing so great. But yeah, very good time to be, a fan of the club. The players' efforts and that are truly shining through, and the players are looking to really enjoy it on the park as well. So that seems to be breeding a lot of good times for us recently, and long may it continue.
It's the return of What Does Your Foxing as we discuss the things that upset us with the beautiful game in the name of one of our most Marmite players of all time. Angus, what does your foxing?
Well, usually the ones I've had in the last kind of wee while has always kind of been, kind of close to home and whatnot. But for this one, I'm going to be a bit continental. And it's a team in particular who kind of done my foxing a wee bit. And people are going to be quite surprised to hear that it's Napoli out in Italy. The reason for this is I think we're all pretty aware right now that, for football on the bigger scale, that it's very much a business and that, these teams are always going to be exploiting, fans and whatnot. There's just something that Napoli have done quite recently that, is really kind of rubbed me the wrong way. Obviously, I think just over a year ago now, Diego Maradona passed away.
Yeah.
Obviously,
Scottish icon Diego Maradona.
Scottish icon Diego Maradona. Obviously, very famous player for, Napoli. I think Napoli have got the number 10 retired for him.
Quite possibly, yeah.
Could be wrong. What's really done my head in with, what's done my foxing with Napoli, though, is they seem to be cashing in quite a lot on Maradona's death. So when it was announced, well, obviously when Maradona passed away, they announced that they would have, like a commemorative kit for Maradona, which, a one-off is fine. 2's taking the mick a wee bit.
I knew there was one.
3's going a wee bit too far. 4 is taking the absolute piss. Like, what the fuck? Like, how much exploitation can you get out of one person? I understand, how much it means to the club and all of that, and there's other ways of going about it, but if you're releasing, multiple kits with this guy's face on it and attempt to, draw emotion or to draw sympathy or that, it's just kind of hard to see, and it's a wee bit distasteful in my opinion that it's only been just less than a year and there's like 4 attempts of this, and it's just I just can't. I look at it and I'm like, this is just clearly a corporate decision. This is really, really pretty poor taste, I would say, and that's what does my foxing this week.
Now I was aware that there was one. I did not know there was 4.
Honestly,
unbelievable.
I think they did it basically so they had. I think they initially at the start of the season they had their home, away, and their third kit. Then I think they released 3 editions of the home, away, and the third kit with Maradona on it. And then I think they've released a special new one as well. Just there, it's just, guys, come on, just let go.
See, it's something I've noticed in recent years. Sometimes you get clubs that have 3 kits, right? Like, I found it baffling. Callum Carson, if you're listening, I found it baffling a couple of seasons back where Airdrie had 3 kits. Airdrie in League One has 3 kits. Why? Anyway, but I've started noticing like Juventus and Inter Milan. I don't know if it's just an Italian. They had 4 kits. Like, they had a 4th kit. Yeah. How many colour clashes do you have in a season that requires you to have 4 kits? Ridiculous, utterly ridiculous. But football at that level has just become a corporate machine, hasn't it? And it is just about money. It really is. Like, I mean, I was having a look at some kits like not that long ago, and Like Man United were charging £100 for a top. What? Like what? £100? But there'll be daft bastards out there that'll pay it. Oh, it is baffling. I agree with you. I think obviously losing, an icon in football terms and Maradona, obviously you would commemorate it in some way, given he is. I don't know if you've ever watched the film about Maradona and kind of goes through his spell at Napoli, but like when he left Napoli, the grown men were crying, and he's an absolute icon there. But to make 4 different kits, that just comes across like you're really taking the piss. But I'll give you that. I didn't know where you were going with that when you told me Napoli before we started, but yeah,
what I would like to add as well to it is a team close to home in Scotland also did it this weekend. There was a commemorative kit announced for them. You see with Rangers and having their all white kit and in celebration of the 150 years. Apparently, they also forgot to register it, and then we're not able to wear it on the game. So they just released a kit for no reason, apparently.
Yeah, I mean, we all know Rangers' financial position. They'll do anything to get a few extra quid in the door, won't they? They need to pay that painter back somehow. They need to pay him back. But no, my does your fox in is something I've noticed, and is, I don't know if it's just become a more regular thing since COVID, Angus, right? But it's kind of a combination of two things. So kids running onto the park to get selfies with players, right? To get pictures with players, or try and ask for their shirt on the pitch after the game, right? Or the cardboard cutout signs asking for a player's shirt. Leave that in the Premier League and in America and the NFL and all that rubbish, right? That's not cinch. That's not cinch behaviour, in my opinion, right? Cinch behaviour is walking up to Mark McGee in the director's box at Dens Park and trying to video him, right, after they're getting beat for. That's cinch, right? Okay. But this new craze of kids running on to get a selfie with a player on the pitch, it does my fox in, Angus. It really does. And the cardboard cutout signs, there's a large part of me that believes it's not even the kid, it's the parent that is pushing them, make a sign to get his shirt because they want the shirt. It's the parent, I think, as well. So parents, stop encouraging your children to do that. I think it's appalling, using your children like that to try and get...
If you're going to do it, you've got to do it the old-fashioned way that we had to, where you had to stand by the dugout and you had to scream as loud as you can to try and get the players' attention to come over, and then probably get a shake of the head because they're not allowed to give away their shirts, or the kit man will do them in. Yeah, that's the way you've got to go for it, in my opinion.
I believe Bruce Anderson actually got a fine. He's had to pay for a new shirt. Cheb wouldn't have been happy when he gave it away after the Dundee United game. But but I also believe this might come back to a trauma that I had back in 2004 when it was the League Cup semi-final at Easter Road, and Fernando Pasquinelli threw his shirt to me and it landed at the bottom of the wall right in front of me, but I'm not the tallest of people, and I was even shorter back then, right? So I couldn't quite reach it, and there was this big, tall, lanky fella just reached right over the top of me and plucked it off the ground, and for years afterwards I used to see him at games wearing the top just about every week. And I don't know if this is a resentment I've developed with this, a personal resentment as a result of being, just my height not allowing me to be able to get a player's top from a famous night in Livi's history. But yeah, that's my does your fox, and it's the kids running on the park. It's the selfie bit, getting a selfie with a player on the pitch. Like, just wait outside the ground when they're leaving and stuff like that. Why run on the pitch? Like, it really does my fox in. But it's like a combination of that and the sign stuff. The signs. Leave that in the Premier League. Leave that in the Premier League. Like, didn't bring it up to our cinch up here. I don't want this in our cinch.
I think that's kind of the issue that's kind of happening with it though as well, is that in a way it's kind of been like encouraged. See, because everybody's kind of getting, what they want from it. I don't really see it disappearing that anytime soon. because, you know, there is so many kind of opportunities where people, especially in high profile matches in England, you're seeing it, you know, working essentially. So people are always going to chance their luck. For some reason, people have got a strange thing with our pitch where they, you know, they like to complain about it and say it's so dangerous and that, but always like to run on it anyway. So who knows what will happen. But yeah, I think it's a very solid choice for What Does Your Fox In as well. I think that'll resonate with many. Maybe parents who will be listening to this will be, you know, having a go at you, but yeah, welcome.
Well, to be fair, I'm being very consistent with the football club this week because they obviously put out something talking about, you know, behaviour at games. I believe there's been a couple of incidents in recent games, and I'm sure that's part of it. And the amount of announcements that are done over the tannoy to say, please do not enter the field of play, you know, just don't do it. It's quite simple. I mean, I had the opportunity to run on the pitch at Dingwall early in the season, and then I realised I'm a 30-year-old man and it would just be embarrassing. So I just stayed in the stand. I think I've only ran on a pitch once in my life, and it was when we avoided relegation on the final day of the season against Dundee and ran past Tam McManus crying. But I mean, that's the only time I think I've ever ran on the pitch. Ever. I think it's probably the only time there's been a pitch invasion really at Livi. I think there was a few fans ran onto the pitch when DJ won us the penalty shootout.
Were you not one of those kids,
Nah, I wasn't one of the kids. I was, to be fair, I was about the same height as some of them. But just to recap on our What Does Your Fox In? So Angus, yours is quite simply
the exploitation of one Diego Maradona by the coward Napoli.
I might just put it to Napoli. But mine is kids running onto the pitch for selfies. I'll be more specific. I'll say the selfie aspect. That does my Fox in even more than the cardboard cutout signs, to be honest. Yeah, I'll go for the running on the pitch for selfies, but we'll put the poll up during the week and you can vote and you can give us your thoughts on it as well.
Finally this week, the league leaders visited West Lothian looking to end a 5-game run without a win in Livingston. Some interesting decisions would benefit Celtic as they ran out 3-1 winners. Euan, what are your thoughts on the game?
Yeah, we'll definitely get on to the interesting decisions at some point because there was at least 2 or 3 that really spring to mind. But no, I think I was always a bit wary of this game because I'd said it during the week to a couple of my pals who are Celtic fans and things like that. It might sound a bit daft what I'm about to say, but everyone had this game down as a big banana skin for Celtic with the record and that kind of novelty. They've not won here in the last 5. You know, I think there was a lot of folk really hyping it up like they haven't won here in 15 years, but bear in mind 11 of those years they hadn't played in Livi, right? But I think it was more that trying to plant the seed of doubt that they've not won there in a while. And I'd said that if Celtic were to come and, you know, comprehensively beat us or comfortably beat us, I think it puts a real marker down for the rest of the season because, as I say, everyone had this game down as their big banana skin to the point where there was some of my pals who are Celtic fans who were more concerned about coming to play us than the Old Firm game. I think that says a lot about how much we live in their heads rent-free over the last few seasons. But no, I think Celtic deserved the result. I'll be very clear in saying that. I think Celtic deserved to win the game. But big decisions have affected the pattern of that game significantly. But, you know, we had the first real opportunity of the game. It was we spoke about it in the preview, talking about Celtic with dead balls and set plays, having the second worst record from set plays. And most of our chances came from dead balls and set plays. The first one was Obalai. You know, he's managed to get a volley on it. It's a fantastic save by Joe Hart early on. But then comes the first of the controversial incidents, which is the Callum McGregor penalty. For me, that is never a penalty. I think watching it back again, what is Fitzy meant to do with his arm in that situation? Like, he's actually trying to prop himself up off the ground. And I think it was Richard Foster actually said it. Is he just going to lie on the ground and flap around like a fish? Like, it's a genuine point. Where's he meant to
Yeah.
put his arm in that situation? For me, it's not an unnatural position that he's in either. He's not made a movement with his arm towards the ball. I wouldn't say he's unnaturally made his body bigger in that situation, given the position that he is in on the ground. And Maeda's smashed the ball at him from a yard away. Like, what is he meant to do? For me, that's never a penalty. But in the end, justice is done, and McGregor's hit the post, and we've been let off the hook, and we were let off the hook just a few seconds after. McGregor's had a great chance with a header as well, which he's blazed over the bar. But then probably comes controversial incident number 2 of the afternoon. How on God's earth has that been given as a corner? There are 4 officials on that pitch, and between them have managed to give that as a corner kick. I am baffled, utterly baffled. And what makes it even more baffling is the fact that the linesman has apparently told Nick Walsh that it is a goal kick, and Nick Walsh has overruled that from about 20 yards away. I can't even put into words how that, it's ridiculous. Now, don't get me wrong. We should defend the corner better. Shinnie's lost Maeda at the back post. It's a great initial save by Max, but Shinnie should track the run. If Shinnie does that, we probably don't concede the goal there, okay? But against the Old Firm, when you get decisions like this given against you, the Old Firm have the quality to punish these mistakes. And that is a basic error that has been made by Nick Walsh in that instance. And it's resulted in a goal in the end. And it's pathetic. It's actually pathetic that he's managed to give. I can't. I was so enraged at the time watching it live. And it's even worse when you see it back, how he's managed to give that. I mean, Holtby's off the pitch when the ball makes contact with him. He's actually over the line. His body's over the line. I can't. I'll try and move on from it because there's another incident that's going to throw me into probably tis. But, we had an opportunity right on half time again, dead ball. It's a great delivery by Alan Forrest, header from Io. He's probably done everything right back where it's come from, and he's managed to hit the crossbar with it. But, right after half time, talk about the Dundee United game, it was probably the perfect time to concede a goal in the first couple of minutes because you've got the full game to work with. Probably one of the worst times to concede a goal is right after half time, where Davy's probably done a team talked about tactics for the game, and then we've conceded right after half time. And I mean, Tom Rogic, if he was playing basketball, he would have got done for travelling. Now, my only defence of Nick Walsh in this is that where the ball's played from, with Holt, he is quite close to Rogic when he's played the ball, right? But for me, Rogic has gained an advantage because the ball has hit both his arms and then he's broke free and slipped, the ball down the line for Ralston. For me, he's gained an advantage with it. And I would be more in the category of saying that's a handball. And then obviously we concede the third goal. It's poor from Holty, in my opinion. I think he's given a hospital ball to Omionga. He's got 2 or 3 players right on him straight away, and he's been dispossessed. And to be fair, it's a good finish by James Forrest. But we did manage to give ourselves a little lifeline pretty quickly after that. Again, a kind of set play, a throw in. It's well flicked on by Fitzy, and it's broke to Andrew Shinnie, who loves a goal against Celtic apparently. Manages to stab it home. But I think as the game wore on, I think Celtic had other opportunities to kind of see the game out. Maeda could have had his second of the afternoon. It's a great save by Max with his feet. Abada had a good chance, which Max has managed to claw out. looked destined for the net. And then we had an effort right at the tail end. Sibbs has had a really good effort, which is saved by Joe Hart. But I think, as I say, to be very clear, I think Celtic deserved to win the game because I think at times we looked a bit rushed on the ball. And I think that is because of Celtic's relentless pressing. They've improved a lot since we played them at the start of the season as well. They look a much more well-oiled machine under Postecoglou now. But we really struggled to kind of get our foot on the ball at any point in the game. And I think when we did get possession of the ball, we didn't show a kind of composure when we did get the ball to try and keep a hold of it as best possible. But yeah, it was a frustrating afternoon because, yes, Celtic deserved to win the game, but there's key moments in the game that have played a very significant part in the final outcome.
Yeah, absolutely. Can't disagree with that at all. Celtic very much the better team. I thought we were very, very slack on the ball. All the kind of good things that we've had in the last kind of couple of weeks, I don't think we really necessarily showed as much. I think the biggest telling thing in the match was, how many loose balls went under like our feet and stuff like that. Too many times, we'd gain possession back and then it was just like a lapse of concentration. Suddenly the ball would bounce away suddenly or that, and then we'd be back under, pressure yet again. I just don't think that, we coped well with Celtic's press at all. And, that's very much credit to them. But yeah, going on to like those decisions, it's just, what really kind of baffles me as well is that, I went onto Twitter afterwards as well, and there's actually Celtic fans on there trying to claim that, oh no, we didn't actually get enough. Like, there's actually things that didn't go in our way. They're trying to point towards, Omiyonga being sent off. What, because he made more than one foul? What, is every foul a booking? There's no clamouring for, for Starfelt getting booked for, a high boot on Nubly. There's also one later on in the game where Greg Taylor, in their final third, just picks the ball up. There's no booking there. I mean, like, if we want to go on about that, then there's, it's really just baffling at that thing where it's like, just accept, you've had a wee bit of an advantage there. I mean, I've just seen one on Twitter as well where it's, a Celtic fan's trying to say like, oh, for everything that went in Celtic's favours, there's a joke of a decision like this. And it's one where Rogic hits the ball straight at Andrew Shinnie and it hits his hand and the ball plays on. And it's like, is that really what you're designing as, much of a bigger joke than, the corner kick one? Really?
Yeah, that handball decision you're talking about with Rogic, the reason I've not even brought it up is because within the letter of the law, it's actually flicked up off. I don't know if it was Fitzwater again with that one or it was Shinnie, but it's actually flicked up off another party's body onto his hand, which is within the letter of the law is not a handball. So yeah, I can't really complain about that one.
Aye. But like, yeah, so like, we obviously acknowledge that, Celtic are very much deserving of it, but you're looking at two of those goals there, which, shouldn't happen. The first one, it's not a corner kick. If we go into that game at half time 0-0, who knows what happens? We hit the bar right before half time as well. Who knows what, that kind of message sends into Celtic at half time. And then obviously straight after half time, it kills the game off as well. The thing is, it's like, we accept that decisions are always going to go against you. But we've played Celtic now the last two games, and every single big game defining decisions went against us. Celtic get the penalty and the red card, and we don't get the penalty that we should have had when, Joe Hart punched Ayo straight in the face, essentially from a corner kick. You're never expect, like Jim Goodwin came out of the weekend following the Rangers game and said, you're not expecting getting any of these decisions. And it's like, well, why? Like, these are all basic stuff that Nick Wills should be getting. How that the corner kicks is absolutely laughable. I mean, I'm sitting in C1, which is, beyond like the opposition, like the halfway line, the other side. And you could see that it clearly went out. You could see the Celtic players' reactions that had already been went out, especially Ralston. Nick Walsh has, got to do the boys a favour. This is the kind of thing though that brings up the VAR debate, and it's like, will this make it any better? I guess if we had VAR, it would just further highlight how incompetent these referees are, and something needs to get done about it because there are only two teams who are getting a benefit from it. They two teams only think that the other side's getting a benefit from it, but both of them clearly are, and it keeps on making an impact on all the other teams around them. But in terms of Celtic and that, you still do have to give them the credit. The press that they did was, absolutely relentless. And, it kind of forced us into rushing the ball a wee bit more. Made up top. I don't think he had, the best of games, kind of quality-wise, but, that kind of work rate that, he displayed, the fact that he was still chasing about in, 80 minutes, 75 minutes, whatever, before he went off, was a true testament to a player like that. But I wanted to know your kind of thoughts as well, Euan. Obviously, we made one change. Bruce Anderson went to the bench for Andrew Shinnie. What did you make of that call to start Shinnie instead?
I think Davies just trying to live in Celtic's head rent free again, and he's starting Shinnie because of what he did last time. at the Tony Mac. Nah, it was a little bit of a surprise, but I did think if there was ever going to be a change, I thought that might have been the one, and maybe to put Newbley up top through the middle, which he did to start with. He almost had, to me, it seemed like he had Pitts playing out on the right hand side to start with Forrest, and then Shinnie out on the left hand side to start the game, and he did switch it around, and Newbley came out wide. Shinnie then went in the hole, and Forrest went through the middle as the game wore on as well. So, you know, he did change it up a little bit. But no, I mean, for me, I actually thought Andrew Shinnie had a pretty reasonable game, to be honest. Obviously, take out his involvement for the opening goal in terms of losing his man, but I think something we were talking about is maybe looking a bit hurried in possession at times and a bit slack when we did get on the ball. And I think Shinnie, to his credit, I think did use the ball quite well when he did get on it. You know, he did show a little bit of composure to take maybe an extra touch and find a teammate and find a pass. But so I actually don't think Shinnie's contribution was all that bad. He also did grab a goal as well, which, you know, you need to give him credit for. So I actually think he had a pretty reasonable game, to be fair to him. I do think we see the best out of Newbley when he plays out wide. And I think, again, you saw that in little glimpses when he was up against Taylor in the second half in particular. But look, at the end of the day, these games aren't going to define our season against the likes of Celtic for me. So, no, I can understand the decision Davies made. And I think Bruce has obviously played a lot of football recently as well. I don't know how much Bruce being diabetic comes into it as well in terms of the minutes that he plays. So that might be a consideration that Davies had to take into account as well, just with, you know, we have had a lot of games since the winter break. So he's maybe needing to manage Bruce's minutes as well at the same time. So no, I can understand it. I was a bit surprised. I'll be totally honest. I was more expecting us to almost go for the same team again, but yeah, it's a squad game at the end of the day, football, and I can understand it, and I'm sure there's probably more thought process to it than, you know, Davies just having a laugh and decided to put Shinnie in and head of Anderson. I think Davy would have done his homework in terms of what he was looking to do in terms of the patterns of play, but, you know, not all of them could work. But for me, I actually thought Shinnie's contribution was fairly decent.
I would have liked to have seen, you know, the same kind of team starting off. I think the thought of Newbley coming up against, you know, like Greg Taylor, that would have been an interesting one. How would Celtic, you know, have went on from that if, you know, that kind of threat had been, you know, early on that side, with Anderson kind of buzzing about as well. But yeah, at the same time, I don't think Shinnie, you know, did himself a disservice. I don't think he was nearly the worst player in that midfield. I think we did also lose a wee bit of Pittman in the middle. I don't really see much of like a wing, much from him, you know, as a kind of a wing player, because he's essentially not a winger. And he has that kind of tenacity and that kind of thing about him in the middle of the park that can, you know, get you that extra kind of foot on the ball essentially. But yeah, again, most of that's, you know, down to the quality of the opposition that we played. And, you know, just got to hold your hands up and say, you know, Celtic were the better team on the day and deserved the 3 points. And, you know, we just got to go on to, you know, the next kind of couple of games and, you know, make things right and, you know, secure top 6 for them.
Yeah, I agree. And obviously our next game's a tough trip to Tynecastle, with the game being a couple of weeks away. We're not going to do a full kind of preview of it, but Hearts have picked up again after having a little bit of a slump. 7 points from the last 9 available. Managed to rescue a point at Tannadice, despite the fact they had 5 players coming off with injuries, points during the game. So potential for a few bodies to be out for them, which might give us a little bit of a glimmer of hope going into the game at Tynecastle, Angus.
First of all, Grass Park should be banned. 5 players getting injured in a match. Absolutely disgusting. Absolute disgrace. Sturgeon's silence on it is condemnable. But yeah, we've got to look forward to that now. You know, just under 2 weeks away, we've got to play them. Hopefully we'll get the team, you know, back in training, working on a couple of things, you know, fitness levels up and all that. And yeah, there's no reason why we shouldn't go there, you know, with the hope that we can take points there. We've seen St Johnstone beat them recently. We've seen Dundee beat them recently, or take points off them recently. Even drawing against Dundee United away, I don't think is, you know, that great a result from a team who, supposed to be that far out in third. But yeah, hopefully we can go there, give a good account of ourselves, and more points, hopefully towards securing top 6 position.
That's it for this week's episode of Talk Livi. Thanks again to every single one of you for tuning in, week out. If you can, we'd love to hear your feedback. Either leave us a review on iTunes or certainly message us on Facebook, Twitter or Instagram.
As Euan said, we're on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. Search Talk Livi to find us. You'll find all the links to our weekly episodes on there as well. You can also find all our episodes, including this one, on all good podcast streaming sites, including iTunes and Spotify. We're also on YouTube, so don't forget to subscribe to the channel. If none of those options suit you, all you have to do is head to our website, talklivipodcast.libsyn.com, where you'll find every single episode we've done over the last few years.
Just before we finish out, just want to wish vice-captain of the women's team, Fiona Boslam now, Fiona Walker. Congratulations on our wedding at the weekend there as well. But from both myself and Angus and Bruni, wherever he might be, I don't know if his alarm clock's gone off yet, because he was meant to join us today, but he's no. But thanks very much for tuning in as always, and hopefully you have a fantastic week as well.
West Lothian is our battle cry. This is the place from which we hail. Livingston, oh Livingston, it's up to Ammonvale. Livingston, 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 oh Livingston, oh Livingston, we love it when you score. Livingston, oh Livingston, the Ammonville Lions roar. Livingston, oh Livingston, we realize our vision. Livingston, oh Livingston, into the Premier